knowledge is power, and reading is what? Fundamental.
Burn and brew with Coven, true and glorious shall be thine.
Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witch and I talk about it here on the internet. If you'd like to follow me elsewhere, check out my links down below in the description. If you are a returning subscriber, it's really good to see you back. Thank you so much for coming back. Your support really means the world to me. Recently, I filmed a book haul video, and I feel like I have been filming quite a bit of content on books lately, but I feel like I'm in that era right now where I'm really working more on my first pillar, as we always should be, because knowledge is power, and reading is what?
Fundamental.
Yes. In one of my recent book hauls, I talked about this particular book, which is Celtic Fairies in North America by Morgan Domler. I really hope I'm saying your last name correctly. I tend to pronounce things kind of funny sometimes, so I really apologize if I'm butchering that. But this was in one of my recent book hauls. I actually have already devoured this. I got through it in I think maybe a weekend. And this is my first book that I have read from Morgan, although I've been following them on social media for quite a while and I've really been enjoying their posts. That being said, this was one of the books that quite a few of you reached out to me and said we would love to hear your full review on, so that's what I am here to do today. So this is what the front of the book looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, not only is this the first book that I've read from Morgan, I've seen some of their blog, I followed them on social media. They have an incredible YouTube channel with loads of free content. Very much go check them out on social. They're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm sure you can probably just Google them. This is also my first book from Pagan portals as well. And I learned a little bit more about this through like listening to some interviews that Morgan has done. So I'll talk about that here in a minute, but I just thought that the cover of this was absolutely gorgeous. I know we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but we all do. And this was definitely not the selling point, but it's a pretty book, right? So this is Celtic Fairies in North America. This is what the back of the book looks like. I want to say that I paid like around $10 for this. So I would say that when it comes to having a conversation around accessibility, I think really anything around the $20 mark is fairly accessible for a witchcraft book. This is a Pagan Portals book, which they tend to be kind of more short, quick, nitty-gritty introductionary guides. So I feel like that's a really good price for what this book is. Also just about 100 pages. So it's not a very big book, but I will say a huge compliment to Morgan. There is so much information that is packed in here. So do not let like the small size of the book fool you into thinking that you're not really going to get much out of it. One thing that I've learned from Morgan through reading this book, but also just like listening to them talk in interviews, is that Morgan really gets to the meat and the potatoes rather quickly. Like there's not a whole lot of appetizer. We can skip that. We're going straight to the main course, which I appreciate. I appreciate that. So I'm going to read you a little bit about what the back of the book says now. This book looks at the question of whether Celtic cultural fairies can be found in North America by exploring folklore across the last 400 years. Through today, stories of belief and personal encounters from Canada, the US, and Mexico show the flexibility of fairy belief, the way that these beings and ideas have adapted to new places and times as they have carried along with the people who believe in them. Perfect for anyone who has ever wondered if Celtic fairies can be found outside of Europe, what those appearances may be like, and what people have believed and do believe about fairies in diasporic communities. Fairy beliefs survived thousands of years of attempted suppression by religious groups. Celtic Fairies in North America shows that they have survived and adapted through immigration, and the influences of popular culture. Matt RAINN left a review on this as well, and Matt says, an insightful journey into the transatlantic migration of fairy lore, skillfully challenging the notion that European fairy beliefs had minimal influence in North America. And that is by Matt RAINN, the author of Psychic Witch and Mastering Magic. Blogger, witch, poet, and teacher of esoteric subjects, priestess of the Dionymethi, Morgan Daimler is the author of more than 24 books, including Fairies, Fairy Witchcraft, and a new dictionary of fairies, which I will say, after reading this one, I've got to get my hands on those, like, need to, immediately, expeditiously, diabolically, right now. Thank you. I do have some notes that I've written down here on my laptop, so if you see me looking down or a strange glow coming from below, that is not my familiar summon directly from hell making an appearance in this video, but it is in fact my laptop. Thank you. So like I mentioned, I do follow this author on social media and I enjoy a lot of their posts. I also really enjoy their mass of free content that they provide over on YouTube, so go check that out. I will try to remember to leave a link for that in the description. But also their collaboration with the IPS, which is the Irish Pagan School, also another really cool channel that I discovered through reading this book, connecting with Morgan on social media, devouring and binge watching a bunch of their content, which then led me to the Irish Pagan School, which I have been completely obsessed with, okay? If you are into all things Irish paganism, I definitely recommend that you go check out their YouTube channel. They have some really good lectures that I have really enjoyed listening to while I clean my house, or when I'm driving to work, or when I'm getting ready for the day, putting my war paint on, and listening to these really cool lectures. So I will try to remember to link them down below as well. Go check them out and show them some love. So I wrote here in my notes that this Pagan Portals book is published by Moon Books Publishing in 2004. And I purchased this copy from Amazon, like I mentioned, around $10-ish. $10-ish, I do think is quite affordable. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this book is that it feels like a very quick introductory guide, but it is packed with a whole lot of information. And I have some bullet points in my notes of things that I would like to kind of explore further for myself. So when it comes to the price point, not only do I think that the price is accessible, the size of the book I would consider to be on the smaller side, but the information is loaded, and I really appreciate that about Morgan. I had to give like any sort of constructive criticism about this book, it would just be that I was left wanting more. But I think that that's kind of the point of a book like this. And like I said, those books mentioned on the back, like Fairy Witchcraft or the Dictionary of Fairies, I'm left definitely feeling more inspired to go get those books after having read this. So it's not really a criticism, it's more just like, I want a second helping. The entree was serving, okay? We didn't even need the appetizers and the wordy sort of writing in cursive fluff that sometimes authors do to fill up word count. That was not here. We sat down at the table, entree served immediately. Delicious. I would have liked a second helping, but I know where to get one. Okay, so who would I recommend this book to? Personally, I would recommend this book to pretty much anyone who is interested in all things fairy, specifically witches in North America or pagans in North America that are interested in learning more about all things fairy and how this might be flavored here in the US. I absolutely am one of those that subscribe to the belief of Celtic fairies in North America. I think it makes a lot of sense that people who came and colonized or people who immigrated here brought their spirituality and their spirits with them, and they intermingled with the local spirits and local spirituality that was already here on this land, kind of making almost like this whole new gumbo of spirit court. I also think that it brings up like an interesting idea around the spirit world, and if we have Irish folks and Scottish folks and French folks and German folks coming here, settling in the Midwest or Appalachia, what have you, intermixing with indigenous folks and Africans, all of these spiritualities too.
Let me just cut that out altogether, honey. I'm not going to touch on that.
So here are some of my notes that I jotted down, just real messy while I was reading this, because when I'm reading a book, one of the things that I like to do that really help my like neurospicy brain is to, in my notes app, just jot down thoughts I have while reading. It can be easy for me to read a book quickly, but how much of that information I retain just reading it alone can be a little bit questionable. I definitely retain more when I'm listening to something. So sometimes if I can get an audiobook that can go along with the book and I can listen to it while I follow along, that's best. But if I can't do that, I find that maybe reading a chapter or two and then jotting down my thoughts about those chapters really help me retain the information. I liked that the book's dedication is to all those who ask about fairies crossing the Atlantic. I just thought that, I don't know, I just liked that dedication. I thought it was very poetic. I liked that there is sort of conversation about some fairies being linked to specific land bodies while others not, because in the book it also talks about the idea that some people believe that fairies cannot cross bodies of water, and so it kind of deconstructs some of that and navigates through that in a way that also leads you to kind of form your own opinions. So this book does offer a couple of different points of view, and I like that Morgan just kind of leaves it up to the reader to, one, do their own research and learn more for themselves, but two, really think critically about the material and see what they believe, as opposed to the author saying, this is it, this is the truth, point blank, period, black and white, you know? Another thing that I thought was really interesting that was brought up in this, I think it's the Woodyard and Young Fairy Census. Never heard of that before. It has 500 accounts of fairies in North America. That's something that I would like to go explore further. There is the French lutin and the elflocks on horses leaving bags of oats out to sort of ward these lutein off from messing with the horses. If you've been following my channel, you know that I've been delving a little bit more into my father's side of my ancestry, which has a lot of French influence. And so all things French right now is kind of piquing my interest for that ancestral sort of like red soul work. So that was another thing that I was like, I'm gonna have to explore that further. I also did not know that one of the variations of the spelling of the word fairy is French in origin. I thought that was kind of cool. Also, not to sound like that really ignorant American right now, but look at the material, okay? For some reason in my head, there is such a disconnect around France and like Celtic. I don't know why that is. I'm sure that that's just my own like American ignorance. But there's a lot of this that has always really spoken to me, even well before I reconnected with my estranged father's side of the family and discovered some of this French influence. Celtic, in general things have always just like, I don't know, like really felt a sense of familiarity with it. And I've been drawn to it. And that's another reason why I really have been enjoying the Irish Pagan school as well. So there's just another plug, but yeah, that was a note that I had in here. There is a mention in the book about the Little People's Village in Connecticut. Google it, go check it out. Very interesting. Also, talking about fairies and Christian folk practices and sort of their perspective with the fairies being associated with fallen angels. Lived for that, loved that. And also talking about the jack-o'-lantern. And I've made a video here on my channel talking about whom I refer to as the three harvest brothers. John Barleycorn around the August time, Johnny Appleseed in September, and Jack Lantern around October. Those three folkloric figures, especially within American traditional folkloric witchcraft, definitely have a pretty heavy current. So seeing the reference to Jack in this book and the associations of fairy lore with Jack was really fun to read about as well. I really hope that you have enjoyed this kind of quick review. It was really fun to read this book. Thank you so much, Morgan, for putting this work out there. Morgan has a ton of books. I don't even know how many, 20, 30, 40 maybe. Go check out their work. Go support them over on social media. Go check out their posts. They're delightful. And yeah, if you have read this book, I would love to know what you think of this. If you have any book recommendations within the sort of fairy umbrella that you would like me to check out, leave those down below. And until next time, friends, blessed be, and I will see you in hell. Bye.
Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Circle sewn with fate, unlock thy hidden